And welcome back to the channel. I said I'd make a Mirage video at some point. Here I am. Here I'm making a Mirage video. Now it isn't the Mirage 4000 yet, which is a new one because I don't have that one unlocked yet. So this is another plane that I actually wanted to cover for a long time. I wanted to make a video on it, and that is the Mirage 2000-5. So it's the one that came out a couple months ago. It's essentially, in all intents and purposes, it is the same as the Mirage 2000C. It has the same flight performance as the event Mirage. If you've been grinding the event lately and you managed to get the Mirage 2000C S4, I think it is, in terms of flight performance and the weapon systems, they're basically identical. The only differences are that the flare count is a lot more on this version. You get a MPRF radar mode, which is, for us regular people, it's the standard PD radar search mode that all the planes have. And you also get the option to carry 4 Magics instead of 2 Magics and 2 Super 530s. Those are the only differences. Well, and the cockpit looks different, but, you know, who cares. But before I start ripping into this plane, I just want to announce real quickly that I have made a new Discord server. So if you've been with the channel for a while, you may remember that I used to link an old Discord server in my video descriptions that a bunch of people actually did join as well. And we had some fun times on there, but basically I want to move on from that, and I've made my own Discord server now. I'm hoping to build like a little bit of a community there, maybe have like a little fun little place to hang out, talk about sim or whatever. Maybe find some people to fly with, and yeah, if that's not something like you're interested in, you're more than welcome to join. Links in the description, like I said. And hopefully I'll see you there. Right, but now I said I was going to rip into this plane a little bit, and even though that might make some of you uncomfortable, because I'm sure a lot of you have got that new event Mirage now and you're really enjoying it and you're getting a bunch of kills, don't worry, that is warranted. You are going to get kills when you fly the Mirage. That's not what I'm trying to say. The thing that you have to realize though is, like, once you run into someone flying an F-16 or an F-15 or any, you know, like a MiG-29 or something like that, and they actually know how to fly their plane correctly, and they also know how to fight Mirages, you do not stand a chance. Because the Mirage, I know people have been making fun of like these kind of like fighter pilot terms or whatever on YouTube recently, but I don't care. I'm gonna use them here because it helps me to explain this the scenario that I'm trying to paint for you. If someone is in a 2-circle fight with you, right, a rate fight, like one continuous turn, nose to tail, whatever, you are going to run out of energy before an F-16 is, before an F-15 is, before a MiG-29 is, even in some cases before a flanker is, although I'm not 100% on the flanker yet. If someone knows how to exploit that in their plane when they're fighting you, you do not stand a chance. Now, you might get a lucky first turn in with like a lucky first gunshot, but it's going to be like a super high aspect, not ideal circumstance gunshot, and you're not going to consistently land it. That's the problem, right? Now, when you're fighting people that don't know how to fight the Mirage, most people that aren't very experienced in War Thunder or in dogfighting or whatever will just, and I don't mean that as an insult because we all started off like this, but most people that aren't very experienced, if they're in an F-16 or they're in a MiG-29 even, because all Russian planes are somehow one-circle fighters, right? They will always try to turn into your nose because it's just like naturally that's the way that you're just going to turn. It's the shortest route to your opponent, right? It only comes later with experience where you then decide, okay, I'm not going to turn into my opponent, I'm actually going to turn away from my opponent because I know that I can eventually, they're going to run out of energy before I am, right? And that's, you know, the whole thing about rate fighting. The problem is a decision like that requires a little bit of foresight. It requires a little bit of like thinking one move ahead, and that you just don't have that, or that's really hard to do when you just don't have that much experience. So if you look at this F-15 here, I don't know what the hell he's doing, but he's way too slow. He's pulling way too hard. He's going to go up now with me. I know he's shooting at that guy in front of him, but I'm just going to be able to reel him in, and it's not going to be a problem for me. Now, if he knew what he was doing, and he kept his speed up, and he was, you know, rating around a circle at 400 knots, I wouldn't have been able to get close to him. Not a chance. After about one turn, I would have been outside of his turn circle, and probably not even an entire turn. And he would have come rating around the circle and probably did like a vertical loop and just dropped on top of me at some point, right? That's the way you fight the Mirage, and there are people out there that know how to do that. And when you run into them, you will know about it. The problem is there are so many people that play this game mode that just have no clue what they're doing. And the Mirage, because of its amazing slow speed performance, it just, you know, happens to be very good at punishing these people without, you know, a lot of effort from the pilot. and that's why you end up actually getting a lot of kills in the Mirage. And if that's how you want to judge a plane, as judge a plane's performance, and you say the Mirage is good in that sense, well then yeah, okay, fair enough, it is. But that's not how I judge a plane's performance. I judge a plane's performance by people fighting it, quote unquote, correctly, and I just don't think the Mirage is necessarily there, at least not in the current like meta that we have in the game. Once we start fighting more up at altitude or whatever in the future, maybe then things will change, right? But for now, I think it's on paper it doesn't work very well, but in practice it actually works quite well, just because your enemies are trash. There's just there's no other way of putting it. Now, if you did end up grinding out the event Mirage, which as far as I know, I think was the Mirage 2000C S4, which for all intents and purposes is the same plane. The flight performance is absolutely identical, however you do get some different avionics. The 2000-5 is essentially the modernized version of the Mirage 2000. And all that really means for War Thunder is you get a MPRF PD radar, which for all intents and purposes is just the standard PD radar search mode. The standard Mirage 2000C doesn't get that; it only gets a PD HDN mode. Basically, it means that this Mirage can track targets in rear aspect, but it's weird because it's only in a certain radar mode. So, because the TWS mode that I'm using in the footage right now only tracks people in the front aspect. It's the same HDN radar mode that the Mirage 2000C gets, so it's not as useful as you might think having that new radar mode. Another thing as well is that this thing gets more flares, so you get I think about 160 something flares with this Mirage with the Dash 5, whereas the Event Mirage DS4 only gets about, I think it's 56 flares. Now you can survive with 56 flares. I think the one in the tech tree well gets 90, by the way. You can survive with that amount of flares. It's not a problem. You don't have to like keep dumping out as much as you think in top tier right now. But it does kind of it means you don't have that much staying power. But that's not really that big of an issue because this thing doesn't get that many missiles anyway. In total, this thing carries 4 missiles. All Mirage 2000s as of right now carry 4 missiles. They carry 2 Magic 2s and also 2 Super 530Ds, which are the radar guided missiles, the semi-active radar guided missiles. Now of course you knew all that because you've already watched all the RB footage on this plane, so you know exactly what the loadout is. When it does come to sim though, I would recommend, if you have the Dash 5, I would recommend taking the 4 Magics, just because the radar missiles, the way they are right now, they're just not super reliable, and the Magics are just better, just plainly they're just more useful. On the Event Mirage, the 2000 the C-4, whatever, S4, whatever the hell it's called, you only get the choice between, well, you can only carry 2 Magics and 2 Super 530, so you can't have the 4 Magics on that, unfortunately, so you're just going to have to make do. But don't let that discourage you, because 2 Magics and 2 Super 530s is plenty for 1 or 2 kills in a flyout. And that is honestly all you're going to be getting in this Mirage, because like I said, with 4 missiles, and especially if you have the Mirage 2000C, where only 2 of those missiles are really, kind of reliable-ish, you're not going to be getting like super high kill games in this thing. You kind of have to make your missiles, sort of work a little bit, or wait for that perfect opportunity to shoot. However, one of the advantages that the Mirage 2000 does have is that its airframe is actually incredibly small, which means that it's also kind of a hard plane to see, especially if you're on maps where the terrain is a little bit wonky. It has like a weird coloration, kind of like Spain or Vietnam, and it can sometimes make it a little bit difficult to actually spot you. And I'm sure you've had this issue a little bit where you've been fighting Mirages on the other team, or Griffins or something like that. They just kind of tend to just show up from nowhere, and then all of a sudden they're behind you somehow. Well, that's honestly to do with the size of their plane. Like, size actually plays a pretty big role in this game mode. Even when there's no markers like an RB or whatever like that, that visual signature that your eyes pick up is actually, it does make a difference, believe me. Something that is worth mentioning though as well is that this thing does get the modernized Western RWR, which, I mean, obviously it's a Western plane. Basically it just means that this thing, it gets the RWR that, it tells you the name of the radar that's locking you up, and also the distance to the guy locking you up as well, which is super useful for simulator battles, just because you don't get any markers or anything like that. I'm sure it kind of has its uses in RB as well, but in Sim, honestly, it's a whole nother level. when it comes, when you're trying to like sneak around in the mountains or something like that, you have your radar turned off, and you can actually find enemies so reliably just by using your RWR. It's incredible. Even just knowing, if that's a friendly ping on the RWR or an enemy ping, is so useful. And there's RWRs in this game, especially the Russian ones, that don't do any of that. So that's just one advantage I really wanted to sort of hammer in there, that this plane does have that. In the footage here, by the way, you can see me call this F-15. What was the mistake that he made? Yes, that's right, he got slow in front of me. Yes, I know it was technically a rate fight, but he let himself get so incredibly slow, and below 300 knots, I don't think there's anything that can actually compete with a Mirage in this game. I did end up finding another F-15 here. I was just out of range because I only had the the one magic theft, so I decided to climb a little bit, maybe get a bit of altitude. And that's also going to be a thing that you're going to run into quite a lot in this plane, is people running away from you, especially in 15s. But alas, I didn't get a kill because I ended up getting team killed by this guy, and it was utterly, completely, totally irrelevant for me to show you that clip because there's nothing of value in there. But the guy asked me in chat not to post it on the video, so, I could not resist. I'm sorry, dude. No hard feelings. One thing I do want to mention, though, before the video comes to a close is when it comes to, the Gripen. So, as you know, France and Sweden always get put on the same side in Sim. I don't think there's a single mashup where France and Sweden are actually fighting each other. As well as Japan always being on the opposite side to France and Sweden as well. So, what this means is that when you fly this thing, it's very rare that you're going to run into Gripens, because the only Gripen you can realistically run into is the British one. Now, the Gripen is arguably the best plane in the game right now, because of how easy it is to fly and how mistake friendly it is as well, how forgiving it is. I will say though, I think the Mirage 2000 is one of the best planes to deal with the Gripen. Now, if the guy in the Gripen knows what he's doing, he's just going to outrate you, like I was explaining at the start of this video. But most people flying the Gripen don't really know what they're doing, like any guy you run into in this game mode. So if you can bait a Gripen pilot into a one circle fight, like a slow kind of rolling scissors or something, you are going to absolutely annihilate them. And that's what I love about this thing. Whenever I fly, I try to fly on red side, I try to fight the Americans, i.e. obviously the British as well, because they always get grouped up together. And I try and go for the Gripens. If I find out that there's a Gripen somewhere in the enemy team, I make it my mission to hunt them down and fight them. Unfortunately, I don't have any Gripen footage for this video because I recorded all this last night and I was a bit short on time, and the matches were honestly just pretty terrible last night for some reason. Everyone's just bombing recently for some reason. I don't know why. The event's over, but yeah. I hope you enjoyed those last 3 super skillful Phantom kills there. Watch me absolutely butter this landing as always. Thank you very much for watching the video, guys. Not sure what plane I'm going to make the next video on. If you have any suggestions, please put them in the comments. But yeah, join the Discord server if you're interested, and I will hopefully see you in the next video. Cheers.